Health Secretary Matt Hancock has been forced to admit that swab tests will now need to be rationed as the government works to resolve shortages. It also emerged that only 3 of the country's top 49 infection hotspots can take bookings.
And with coronavirus cases continuing to rise, the government faces fresh concerns from those struggling to get swabbed.
Well, one of those affected by the struggling system is teaching assistant Naomi Dawes. Morning, Naomi.
Morning, Naomi.
Hi there. So you've got 2 daughters, Eva, who's 11, and Juliana, who is she 19?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who in the family got it first?
Me. I started with symptoms on Saturday and looked to get a test straight away, really.
And so what happened? How did you go towards that?
Well, I went on the website like you're supposed to, and there were no drive-in, no walk-in appointments available. I ended up ordering one of the postal sort of tests. That was supposed to come the next day. It hadn't turned up Sunday morning, so a friend at work had said, well, there is a place. It's half an hour's drive. You can go and just walk in. You don't need an appointment, have a test. And I didn't know about this. I didn't know you could even do that. It's not on the government website that you can do that. So I went down on the Sunday. I was very lucky and got an appointment because the test hadn't turned up through the post. Then on the Sunday,
lucky that you got that test, because when the kit eventually did turn up in the post, it was incomplete.
It was, yeah, there was an awful lot missing. I was really lucky to get that walk-in appointment. That was just through pure chance. That was through sort of people talking on social media about it.
So you get the test done, so that's good. However, as with this case, and often happens, it starts to go through your family. And it's your 11-year-old daughter, your youngest daughter, Eva, she starts displaying symptoms also. So were you able to get her tested?
No. We couldn't get an appointment online again, same problem. No postal ones were available this time. So we went to the walk-in one, as I'd done, and it was horrendous. There was a huge queue. It was boiling hot. We had to queue for an hour. And then when we got to the front of the queue, they just said, I'm really sorry, all our tests have been used up for our walk-ins. There's no more. You can't get tested. You have to go home.
So what's happening now?
We're just trying the government website again and again and again, trying to get a test, but there's none available.
Can you go to work?
No, I can't go to work till he gets her negative. So although I'm feeling a lot better, I still can't go in. So the school is now missing out on having an employee in, which is at a time when they really need everybody in as well.
Frustrating for everybody. OK, thank you. Having worked at one of the test centres herself, we can speak now to Flo Sibury. Good morning to you, Flo. Thank you for joining us. So you really wanted to work at one of these testing centres, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I struggled over summer to find a job. Obviously, at the moment, it's been quite difficult. And my friend was working at the one in Guildford, so she sort of got me the job there. It's good money. Long shifts, sort of 13-hour shifts, but I thought it'd be a good thing to do at the moment. So, yeah.
Well, you were there for 2 weeks, and the 2 weeks were very different in character. So explain week 1 and then explain what happened in week 2.
So week 1, really busy. We were able to accept anyone driving into the test centre. So you didn't have to register online first. You could just turn up. We were encouraged to advise people in cars that all take tests while they were there. We were testing loads of people every day. And then everything changed in the second week. There was a new rule in place where you have to have a QR code to get a test. And obviously people are really struggling to get these codes. So we were sort of at the test centre for 13 hours a day, doing only a handful of tests every hour, having to turn away about 500 cars a day because they couldn't get these codes online.
So how did that feel? I mean, there you are, sitting there, waiting, available, with tests available, ready to be used, and yet you couldn't do it. And I imagine you had ill people very upset that they couldn't have their tests done there and then.
Yeah, it was very frustrating for everyone, really. And we were told not to let our emotions get involved, because we would have people driving in who were saying, I can't go back to work, my child can't go back to school until we've got this test. And we were just being told, you can't do it, and we were literally sitting around not doing anything with the facilities to do these tests, but we were just being told, sorry, you can't, if you've not got a code, and it was almost impossible to get one. It was sending people from the south up to Scotland as the nearest test centre. Obviously, most people can't do that, so it was very frustrating.
You shouldn't be sending,
quite wrong, actually.
Shouldn't be sending sick people up and down the country anyway. We heard a story of someone who knew there was a test centre and lived in Twickenham and was sent to Aberdeen, but when they entered an Aberdeen postcode, they were actually sent to the one in Twickenham. You know, so there's something certainly wrong with the system here, and the last thing we should be doing is sending potentially ill people up and down the country. You said, you used the word unethical, which is why you left, a strong word to use. What is your take on what's happening?
So, from speaking to more senior managers at the test site, my view is that obviously lockdown eased over summer, everyone was going out, having a good time, we had Eat Out to help out, and I think there is quite a lot of, we're going through a spike now, and by slowing down testing, it obviously slows down that spike. So that's what I think is going on at the moment from speaking to people at the test centre. OK, well, let's talk now. Thank you for that. Let's talk to virologist Dr Simon Clarke, who is deeply concerned by the current testing system. Morning, Simon. Nice to talk to you again.
Morning.
So you said you thought this might happen, but it's happened sooner than you thought.
Yeah, I've been saying for some time that I think a second wave of infections is likely in the second half of this year, but it comes a month or so earlier than I thought was likely to happen, if it was going to happen at all. So I suspect that's what's happened with the authorities as well. They probably weren't expecting it to come quite so soon.
And so this can only get worse, can't it? Because if people are getting regular cough and cold symptoms that we do at this kind of year, we're not in peak season for that yet. So what's going to happen if the system's being derailed now? Where does this lead?
Well, you're quite right. I mean, what we really need to do with this virus is get ahead of the curve. And we're really, to quite a serious degree now, playing catch up with this. As we move into the autumn and the winter, it's quite normal, and there will be the normal coughs and colds circulating like every year, like happens every year. And of course, add on the COVID-19 onto this. So the testing system that we need needs to be inflated quite considerably in order to be able to deal with that. Otherwise, we're just going to have lots of people wandering around, not knowing whether they've got COVID-19 and spreading it on. And it will be like the ripples in a pond. The longer you leave it, the further the virus will spread.
So do we have the capability, if we are organised enough? And Nick Ferrari on LBC this morning was saying we can be incredibly negative here, but if you look at the positives, our testing is considerably better than many of the countries in Europe currently, according to his figures. So you say the government is playing with fire. Do we have the organisation and do we have the capabilities to do it properly?
We do have the capability to do it properly, but are all the ducks in a row? Are all the facilities, the staff, the equipment that we need available? I mean, it could be done. I mean, there are plenty of people with the right skills.
We've had since March to sort this out.
Quite. I mean, back in March, at least you had the excuse of it coming on and being a surprise, not something we'd really known about for very long. But that excuse isn't valid anymore.
So what's the disconnect then? Why do you think this is happening? Because if the people are there to do it, we've got the capability, we've had the time in order to put it in place. I mean, does the buck stop with the government on this one?
Well, it stops with whoever is organising the tests, and the government has contracted this out to people, and perhaps they should be asking serious, hard questions of those people that are being paid on behalf of the taxpayer to do it. Quite why this is happening, I'm not sure anybody really knows, or if they know, they're not letting on. Back in the spring, we had shortages of reagents, which are basically laboratory ingredients to run tests and experiments. There has been some suggestion that it's down to a lack of staff this time round, although one academic who was pivotal in setting up one of the Lighthouse labs, I saw yesterday refute that and say that wasn't the case. So currently, it's difficult to know. We just don't know.
Well, funny enough, Flo, who we were talking about, according to just before you, said the contractors weren't to blame, in her view, being on the front line there. Serco, a spokesperson, said Serco manages the testing centres on behalf of the DHSC, and we follow their latest procedures and instructions, and the Department of Health and Social Care. Said NHS test and trace is working. Our capacity is the highest it's ever been, but we are seeing a significant demand for tests, including from people who do not have symptoms and are not otherwise eligible. That new booking slots and home testing kits are made available daily. We're targeting testing capacity at the areas that need it the most, including those where there is an outbreak, and prioritising at-risk groups. Our laboratories are processing more than 1 million tests a week, and we recently announced new facilities and technology to process results even faster.
Thank you.
So thank you very much indeed
Appreciate
for
that.
talking to us again. Simon, I'm sure we'll be talking to you in the future.